And you're on mute, so I can't hear you. Oh, there's Elisa.
Sorry, I'm ready. Go ahead.
It's okay. Okay. I'm letting Elisa in really quick, and then we'll make sure she can hear us. And then I'll start. Hi, Elisa. Can you hear us okay? Can you hear us okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We can hear you too. So we're all set.
Oh, good.
Okay, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first, we just want to welcome Brandon, the newest commissioner. So thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you.
Good to be here.
And let us know if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we're going to jump around a little. Oh, let's actually do approval of minutes first, and then we'll go into counselor's report. So we have the minutes dated April 12th, 2021. If anyone wants to make a motion to approve.
I move we accept the minutes as.
Anyone want to second?
I'll second it.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Awesome. So we will jump right into counselor's report. And then after that, Doug, we will go back and kind of backtrack a little bit to do the topics from the floor. So if anyone's waiting to speak, you get to go after Doug. And you're on mute, Doug.
Hey, thank you for accommodating. That's I really appreciate it so much. And a big special welcome to Brandon and the dimension that he can bring to our Parks Commission is phenomenal. The what he does as a historian is amazing, and I think that has a tremendous amount of merit for our Parks Commission, especially when it comes from the historical significance of our parks and what each has to offer. Brandon, such a huge welcome to you, and very appreciative of you applying for the Parks Commission. So with that, I'd like to see us kind of come back to looking after a park, or make certain that we have a park. You know, the reports have kind of gone somewhat astray, but possibly you could talk about revamping that a little bit. It's interesting to me to hear those parks reports of what's on your mind. Possibly we could do it on a daily basis, on a meeting basis, feeling out what you feel needs improvements on each of the parks that you're responsible for reporting to. So to me, it's something that I kind of miss, getting the individual parks reports as we move forward. There's a lot to that. One of the things that I did report, your findings of where you wanted to go with obtaining properties, and the staff is diligently working on that. I can't say a whole lot about it, but all I can say is that the staff is busy working on that, looking in the future to the needs of our parks. So that's one thing that I can assure you of, that I know. I've been talking somewhat with Matt, with our finance director, with Mohammed a bit. And one of the things that is important, and it's always important to me, is that if all the council agrees to a project, then, and I've got a phone call coming in, and I hope you don't hear that. I'm sorry about that. But if the council agrees, and we did unanimously, to find ways to purchase property that you folks recommended, and you folks recommended is the key. And then I passed that on to the council and the council accepted that. All 5 council members accepted it, and we looked at it for, I motioned that it goes to an action plan. So with all of that, things are happening, because if the 5 council members vote to direct staff to create an action plan, it doesn't really matter if it's on the master plan or not. And that's how the Veterans Plaza, the golf park, the disc park, all of those things came about from action plans from you folks, from the Parks Commission, coming to the council, and the council adopting it, saying, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's have the staff look into it and go forward. Well, I did that for what you suggested. I did leave out a couple things, and those were the particulars about including people into the motion, and I thought that was really important to leave out, and some other kinds of details. And so if something like, hey, you want to acquire property at the botanical garden area, or properties that are next to it, that's good enough. And then let the staff do their work, because that's what they're good at. And hopefully that will happen. I hope I'm clear about that. Keep your motion simple, and I think we'll have a lot of success with that. What else did I want to say? Oh, great things about properties. Looking for new properties for parks. Everything's kind of on the burner. There's a lot of activity with the staff. And as you well know, that those are negotiated, things that are negotiable with owners and sellers and buyers and whatever. So it gets real sticky, and we can't get in, I can't say a thing about it. Okay. And I think you all understand why. So that's what the staff is busy doing. And boy, am I looking forward to possibly, I heard Jerry in passing say that there was a work party at the Botanical Gardens, maybe clearing some ivy and poison oak, that kind of thing. If that happens, and it's on a Saturday, I no longer am teaching on weekends. So 1, I want to get involved, and 2, I'd like to host a post work party get together at my house, because we are so close to the Botanical Gardens. We're just steps away. So if that happens, let me know. Somebody, Jerry, give me a call or whatever, and then I'll know the date and all of that. So how does pizza sound, and beverages? Okie doke. That's the least I can do for the Parks Commission. Okay. So have a good meeting. Any questions from you before I push off to City Hall? We're having it down at City Hall, our council meeting, rather than on Zoom. So if I can entertain any questions, I think Jerry, I see a hand.
Yeah, Carmen and I have talked about cleanup, and she's going to give a rundown on everything we're going to do. But since you're here, Doug, one thing, Carmen said she would donate $20 for pizza. And I said I'd donate at least $20 for pizza. And I know you said you would donate for pizza. And I guess you're going to get beverages. But we were wondering if it would be maybe better to have it at I don't know if it might be better to have it right there where everyone meets at the front of the park. We can talk about that.
That's
so
fine, anywhere. I just want to be involved in it.
So Carmen and I, we definitely want you we will donate some money to you, and we'd like to have the pizza maybe at the entrance to Columbia Botanical Gardens.
Perfect.
I called you today about that, but you didn't answer your phone.
I was out on the tractor, out on the farm.
Thank you for the updates, Doug.
What's that?
Thank you for the updates. I do know that I think when we started going to Zoom, we stopped with the park updates. Yeah. We used to do that regularly. So I think that's a good idea to start to revisit that. And maybe, Sherry, maybe we can get you to send out the list that we had of people who are associated with each park, and then we can revisit that at the next meeting with Brandon.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that helps so much with any kinds of projects and that kind of thing that are noted.
Yeah.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah, are you guys are going back to in-person meetings? Are we considering the same thing, or?
No, we just, the mayor just wanted to do it on this special emergency meeting.
Oh, okay.
And I think we'll stay with Zoom until we get the all clear from the governor and from the city employees and whatever.
John, you look like someone that's probably infected to me.
Infected? I've been shot.
Okay, thank you. And good to see all your faces, and have a good meeting.
Thank you, Doug.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have topics from the floor from anyone who's not already on the agenda. I know we have a couple of people on. I believe Patricia is on. I don't know if you're just listening or if there's anything you wanted to bring to the council or the commission.
I'm just listening. I live in St. John's and I do folks walks out in St. Helens, so I just like to kind of keep in touch with the parks and see what's going on. Great.
Well, thank you for listening in. I don't see anyone else except for Rachel. If you want to go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much, Carmen. Hello, gang. Good to see everyone. I just wanted to come and say hello and give a little preview that at your next meeting, the chair has graciously allowed me to come and talk through the code section that applies. Yay! I know it's very exciting and people love to review municipal code. But in light of changes and with the rec program folding in, I just think it's a really good time to do it. It's a newer section in code from 18, but just to make sure the purposes are fitting your passion. I've been working to develop an orientation for new commission members. So Brandon, look for communication from me. And that covers kind of how the city works, what volunteer service looks like, a review of our ethics guide, and then that code section guide. So it may be useful to do that as a group and just make sure we're on target and looking towards the future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Does anyone have questions for Rachel? Emily?
Rachel, I would like to see that document myself. Is it possible you could send it to me as well, or is that something I could find on the city website?
Here, I can drop the section into the chat right now.
Thank you.
Ooh, it's kind of a wonky link, but there it is.
Really appreciate this. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Rachel. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't think we have anyone else who is not already on the agenda. So let's keep it moving. Next, we have new business, and we have Emily Martin from the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Howard did a fantastic job of introducing me to the council, so I'd like to give a nod in your direction, Howard. I can't see your screen right now, so I'm going to. But I also wanted to follow up and just kind of expand on the introduction that Howard gave me and explain my background as well as my role for the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. And from there, I'll talk about a couple of park projects we're working on. So I'm the restoration project manager for the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. I joined the council in early August last year as a part-time employee. Started my position in December, and since then I've been assisting the council by managing the nursery volunteer program, and our small projects. Some of our other small projects that tie in neatly with my job include assisting with the Friends of Nob Hill 5th Street Trail extension. So I've been working very closely with Howard and Caroline to help get the new trail system ready for the upcoming planting season. We have actually done a lot of great progress on the park so far. Not only did the volunteers on Nob Hill's workday party remove lots more ivy than I'd expected them to remove, Howard has been fantastic when it comes to weed whacking the reed canary grass that's currently growing within the wetland. And he's also started attacking the blackberry as well. In mid-June, we're going to have a crew from Native Plantscapes Northwest come in to start doing the first treatment. They're going to be cutting down the blackberry and some of the ivy from the park to get it ready for a spray treatment that will be happening in late October, early November. That's the ideal time we want to try to treat the blackberries and try to get the park ready so that we can plant the native plants without them having to be overwhelmed by the blackberries and the other invasive species. One of the other projects that I've been working on, and part of the reason why I've been interested in attending these meetings, we partnered with the city of Scappoose to help them manage some of their parks and natural areas. My job with that has been to survey the parks, monitor them, and get a sense of what kind of invasive species or ecological problems could be present within the parks. And I'll be frank and say that so far it's been your classic case of a good mixture of native plants with a lot of invasive plants. But we're working with the city of Scappoose to not only maintain and manage their existing areas and knock back as much of the invasive weeds as possible, but we're also trying to help them manage the parks for a better ecological picture. And by that, I mean, there's opportunities to plant native plants, to increase shade over the streams. And we're really trying to work with the city to not only provide our services for them, but to also help network them with volunteer opportunities and with other agencies. For example, I discovered garlic mustard on Veterans Park and Chief Concomly Park. That's I don't remember what class of noxious weed it is, but it's what we call an EDRR species, early detection, rapid response. So the Soil and Water District, they do a lot of garlic control sprays, and we were able to connect them with the city of Scappoose to try and get that site targeted for a garlic mustard spray. And I've been talking to Shauna and Mohammed about trying to set up a similar partnership with the city of St. Helens, because when we think of a watershed, we tend to think it's the creeks and the streams, but it's also everything that runs from the top of the mountain down to the bottom of the Columbia River. So I think there's a really great opportunity for the council to assist and to also really have a chance to help enhance and improve the existing biodiversity that's already there. We've got gems like Nob Hill Nature Park, and we also have diamonds in the rough like the Columbia Botanical Gardens that can provide a lot of natural and social wonders for the people. Do you guys have any questions? I know I just gave a very long talk, so I'm happy to expand on any questions you have.
My question would be, what can we do as the Parks and Trails Commission to help progress that partnership with the city of St. Helens? And that might be for you and Shauna and Mohammed.
I think so. I think that's a conversation that Shauna and Mohammed and I have to have. And there's been a lot of support for it. So going forward, I think this will come to fruition. I guess one thing I would say is the role I see the council doing is helping to, you guys have great volunteer programs already, and you guys know your parks better than some people know their own children. So for us, oh good, I did make people laugh. Yay. I'm gonna admit I was practicing that joke for a long time. So I think for us, it might be a bit of a different partnership in the sense that while I could go in and certainly assess and give feedback for what kind of problems could be in the parks, I think less of it's going to have to be myself doing the footwork and partnering with you guys to say, okay, what kind of plants have you seen within the park? What kind of problems do you see that could tie into ecological problems? And ultimately, I think the bigger thing would be working with you guys to figure out what is the ultimate picture for the parks, because it's kind of a case where some parks we could think about trying to eradicate maybe 90% of the invasive species in the parks. But if we eradicate the species, what then? I think working with the Parks Council would help us answer the question of, if, okay, we did this, now what? What's the next stage after we address invasive species or hazardous plants? Is it restoring the natural area to a picture that maybe no longer exists, or is it trying to manage the native species that are already there?
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for Emily?
I think she sums it all up.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. We will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is the annual report to council. I had an email string going with Paul and Elisa, and I think they were going to potentially tag team on doing that. So I'm not sure if you guys put that on the agenda or if Sherry put that on the agenda.
I did.
Okay.
I'd emailed everybody after the last meeting about it,
yep,
asking if anybody wanted to do it. So I will need to let Kathy know who would be doing it. Okay. It's scheduled for June 2nd, Wednesday, June 2nd at 1 o'clock at the work session.
Okay. I'd be happy to put together the report, but I didn't realize that the meeting was on a Wednesday and during that time, so I wouldn't be able to present it, but I'll be happy to put together the report.
Okay.
I can probably make the presentation, I suppose. It is my birthday that day, but you know.
Can we move it to the work session after that, Sherry?
That would be June 16th. I can ask Kathy if it doesn't work for you guys, then yeah.
And is it virtual, or are we making a presentation in the chambers there?
No, it'll be by Zoom.
By Zoom, okay.
So does the 16th
I mean, because
better?
if that's the case, I mean, it's not a big deal. On the 2nd, I could probably still do it on that date. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just check and see if the 16th would be better, and let's do that then. If it doesn't, then yes, I'll make it work on the 2nd. So.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you guys for offering to do that.
Sure.
If there's anything I can do, just let me know. I think you have all my files from the previous ones. So
yeah, thank you for sending that.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Does anyone have questions about that or anything specific that you want to make sure is included in that? before we move on?
Urban Trail.
Urban Trail. Thanks, Jerry. All right. Next up is Parks and Rec volunteer information.
Hello, everyone. So I met with Kathy today talking about, and I'm Shauna Duggan, the Parks and Rec manager, talking about our volunteer program that we're putting together. So her and I are working on kind of the structure of everything. So coming up with some different code of ethics, volunteer forms, who would need a background check for what they're volunteering for. So we are encompassing all volunteer programs in the city of St. Helens. So that includes parks, rec, library, admin staff, police, and gonna house it under this one volunteer program. So of course there'll be different levels of who needs background checks if you're working like with a kids program versus if you're weeding a garden type of thing. So we'll make sure we communicate that to you all. In the meantime, Sherry ordered us some vests and got them embroidered on, or letters on the back of City of St. Helens volunteers. So this is what we are going to use instead of having t-shirts or a badge, is vests. We feel like these will be easier to show who we are, and also for not losing them and that sort of thing. The thing with the vests though is you'll need to come and check them out. Like when you do work parties and things like that, we'll provide you with how many you need for your work crew. Jerry and Carmen and I, we took an adventure, was it last week? All the weeks are running together.
And Emily. And
Emily, yes, and Emily to the Botanical Gardens. And I was talking to them about a form that I'm creating for work parties so that we can make sure we're capturing all the information for what kind of needs you all have when you're doing a work party, when it is, if there is any kind of waivers and things like that. And also if there's any materials that you're needing from me, because I'm trying to get some grants that we can buy some shared materials to use, such as like shovels and rakes and things like that. Because right now we're lending out what we have in stock for the parks crew. And so that's not our best use of our materials right now. I mean, we totally appreciate what you all are doing, but we need shovels too. So we need to make sure that we're, you know, having enough things for everyone, and the expectations for if you need us to come pick up things at the end, because there was some garbage bags over by Dalton Lake that we weren't sure if we were supposed to pick up or what was going on. I think they did end up picking them up, but just so we have some better communication with all of us and we're all on the same page for everything. So we're helping you guys do the great work that you do, and we're able to live up to the expectations that we say we're going to do. So those are the things that are coming down the pipeline. So there is a little work with that because we have to work with our insurance company and things like that. So it's not something that's done yet, but I just want to let you know that we are pushing it forward. Doesn't mean you can't still volunteer right now. My goal is that we'll have really robust volunteer programs, or we are doing a work party at every one of the parks, like every 6 months on a rotating schedule, you know, not all the same parks the same month or whatnot, but that way we're getting the community involved. I wanted to show you a city volunteer site that I really love, and I've shared with a few folks. It's the city of Tualatin. Can you see this, Carmen?
Yep, we can see it.
So there's lots of different things that you can do to volunteer, and I want an information hub all in one place. So if you, you know, work at, say, the credit union and you want to come volunteer and do something, we will have a Team St. Helens page where you can come on, and it will tell you what sort of team activities we're doing in the city and how you can get involved in that. It will have things for family volunteering, if we're doing any planting stuff. And then also there's one that's just a DIY, so do-it-yourself volunteering, that you can just register to hug a park or hug a trail. And each of our trails and parks will be listed on here, and it will give you a comprehensive list of the things that you can go out and do. And so it's not so much like, you know, a work party that you have to wait for, but if we know Godfrey Park gets overtaken by the ivy on the trees, and this is how we'd like you to help us prevent that, we can do that here. And so that's what I'm working on. So if you have any ideas, I love to hear them. I think it'll be great to go back to the park reports so that we can have those ideas of what's needed at the parks, and I have a running list of what's going on. And yeah, I think that's it for the volunteer stuff. Like I said, it's going to be a working document that we're going to work through, and after we get it done, we'll have to go to the managers, have them approve it. We'll have the commissions take a look at it and then push it to council for approval. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Looks like Jerry might have a question.
Always, Shauna. So in your volunteers, would it be possible to maybe contact the high school and find out if they have students that want to do projects? And also, when we were talking a week or so ago, when we were down in the park, we were talking about having youth organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever, maybe people who work on their merit badges or something, you know, get a hold of the people, the youth organization leaders, and maybe include them in it. So if they have a participant that wants to do a project for getting a badge or writing a report or community service, you know, I'd like to see those individuals included in the volunteer program.
Yes, that's a great suggestion, and one that I very much agree with. So on the Tualatin Hills, City of Tualatin, they have a page that even has, which I really liked, it had project ideas for scout projects or Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or team building stuff, and has a packet that you would fill out, you know, for that sort of thing. And I think just the thing is so that we're all getting the same information. And I know sometimes people have fabulous ideas, but maybe they're not a good fit for whatever park. So if we can kind of like say, oh, you know, this park would be great if somebody built benches for, or things like that. So yes, we'll definitely get the high school and all the students, and also all of our after school programs, all of our rec programs involved in this volunteer wraparound.
Oh, that's good. Rec programs.
Hey, Shauna.
I feel like people want to do the thing, sorry, Paul, but they just don't know what it is to do. And so if we can provide them with some of that guidance, I think that we're going to have a lot of folks that really want to be involved. What was that, Paul?
No, it sounds like a great idea. Might help us out with some of the volunteer work, volunteers that we need down at the BMX track. So I mean, I would assume that it would apply to all the volunteer work or maintenance that we do there at the BMX facility, right?
Yeah, so our hope is that this will be what we use for anybody who volunteers to the city, just so we have a very, very uniformed place where people know what to expect, and they know what we expect from them too, what kind of behavior we expect, what kind of volunteering, like that sort of thing. Yeah, and so we'll have some different documents that they'll fill out in the beginning, and I can help them through that. We'll have something that helps them through. So we'll make it as easy as possible that we can all keep doing the great work that we're doing, but in a way that we're all covered too.
Is there a distinction between volunteering, you know, doing work like cutting grass or pulling weeds versus volunteers that are, like, say, at our BMX race, that are helping put together a race for the day? Those wouldn't necessarily be considered.
Well, I think for you,
that's kind of part of the group. It's a little bit different. It seemed like, but
yeah. So I think there will be. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if I'm freezing it. Okay. Yeah. So I think there will be a difference, for instance, with the BMX, how you kind of subcontract that facility out, and you run it through your insurance and such. So we'll just expect you to be following what we want to see from our folks who subcontract things like Little League and things like that. You'll be in charge of your own volunteers.
Yeah.
You'll just be that umbrella for it. But say, for instance, for me, if I'm hosting a softball league because I'm with the rec program through the city, then I have the same volunteer things as I would with my soccer program, etc., if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And Howard has a question, and I believe Emily had a question. So we'll let Howard go first, and then we'll have you go, Emily.
Okay. Just more quick question. I'm always in the park almost weekly, sometimes more than that, doing stuff. Is there a chance I can get a hold of one of those vests and just not have to check it out each time, because I never know when I go into the park, and I just think I'd be one person that in a way should have that on if I'm in there weeding, brush cutting on those trails.
Yeah, so I'll definitely check in. I think our hope is that anytime people are doing work for the week, that they will check out a vest for that week. And that way we have an idea of what kind of work is going on. Okay. So I'll definitely check in with Kathy. We want to make this as easy as possible, but also staying within the parameters of how we can make it a good experience for everyone, and just so we're all kind of in the know of what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily? And you're on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So one thing I was wondering, are we going to have to develop training programs? There's going to be some volunteers that might possibly be long-term volunteers where I could see them needing to know at least information about whatever tasks they're doing, especially if it's related to something using equipment or working with noxious weeds, so like poison oak or stinging nettle. But is that something that's also being looked at, is what kind of training programs might be needed?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that there is a need for that with some of the programs, like you said, whether that's we create YouTube videos that they watch beforehand, or we have hey, we're meeting here at this date and time, and this is how we're going to do it. So we kind of do that same thing already with our rec programs and our coaches and stuff. We have a Zoom meeting with them and they have a checklist that they go through. And so I would imagine it to be very similar to that, with things that are a little bit more in-depth type of thing, to make sure that we're not risking anything for anyone or making our spaces not safe anymore.
One other question I did have, are we going to try and encourage people to meet a quota per se, to say we would like you to contribute at least 1 to 2 hours of volunteering service per month? Or I guess in fairness, that's not going to be for every program.
Yeah, I think that it would be fun to put together maybe some incentive type things, and maybe we can partner with the library with their summer reading program or their adult reading program for some volunteer things. So I think there's definitely some things that we can do to encourage people to volunteer. If Carmen and Jerry are doing pizza parties every time, that's probably an incentive. But we can definitely look at that. I don't know that we would want to put too much of a time thing, because I want it to be a thing to like, okay, my plans got canceled this Saturday and we want to hang out in town. Oh my gosh, what can we do? It looks like we can go weed the Veterans Plaza or something. So it's not like, because I think a lot of people run from volunteer stuff because they're now the president of it or whatever. So we're trying to give them another option to do good things in the parks without having that expectation.
Understood. No, I think that sounds great.
Looks like Mohammed might have a question.
Yes, thank you, Carmen. Well, first of all, Brandon, welcome aboard to the commission. I heard many great things about you, especially through the city employees and colleagues. So welcome aboard. We're very excited to have you. So with that said, Shauna, thank you so much for the great work you've been doing thus far, just being on that position just for less than a month now, a month and a half or so. So great. The commission members, thank you all for your hard work and volunteer work. I will have to run shortly for another meeting. However, I wanted to express my appreciation and amazing efforts that I see from a commission that I've never seen anywhere in my career, really. You guys are very passionate about this work, and that makes the city a great place to be in. And just from my perspective as the Public Works Director, I want to let you all know that I work closely with Shauna, and I'm very excited about this transition we're bringing to the city by appointing a Parks and Recreation Manager who's going to work closely with you guys to achieve all the goals we're looking for this year and many years forward. And you guys have full support from our side, and we truly want to take our Parks and Recreation to the next level and show our talent and team members and what can we do within the city. And last but not least, for the volunteers program and everything we just discussed, it's great. And as I mentioned, we are working diligently to support in any way we can when it comes to equipment, tools, timing, our staff, resources. And Shauna, she's a great asset to the city, as you guys can see. We're going to bring a lot of coordination through the commission and the Parks and Recreation management position to take our Parks and Rec to the next level. With that said, if there is anything I can volunteer for that little gathering for the pizza, please let me know. I'm not sure how far. Yeah,
Mom,
are you guys
May
there?
22nd at 9 o'clock.
Okay, what are you missing? How many pizzas? Just tell me.
We talked to Doug. Doug's the pizza guy.
Okay, because I would love to be part of that, volunteer financially or efforts in any way. So I will check in with Doug and we'll make sure we have plenty for everybody. So,
Bummer, we have a native plant walk that day.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have questions for Shauna? Go ahead, Brandon.
Just had a quick question. So this was a question I already had kind of anyway. And so there's been quite a few times I've been out walking around in a park or something and I'll see a flower bed or something. And I think I could have that weeded in a half hour. And so what's the protocol right now if I wanted to do something like that? How would I go about getting permission to do that?
So the protocol right now is if you just want to give me a quick call, let me know that's what you're doing. And I'm over at the parks office now as well. So if you want to come pick up a vest from me, that'd be great. That way people aren't wondering what this guy's doing out there.
Perfect.
Hey,
Yeah.
Shauna, before we said, like last year, I had to sign like a waiver that was good for a year, you know, a city waiver. So that if I got hurt out there.
Yeah, so Brandon, let's get you, I'll send you over the waiver just so we can have it on file. And then whenever you want to do that, I'll give you my work cell phone. You can just call me and I'll tell you where to get the vest from. But I'm just over here at McCormick Park too. I have an office over here.
Perfect. And I don't want you suing the city.
And I had one question for you, Shauna. Do you think there would be room for adding a page specific to donations? So volunteering is kind of people's way of donating their time, but if we could have some kind of a wish list of things we'd like to add to our parks, and we're looking for people to donate financially or donate materials to help make a project happen, is that something we could do?
I think that the sky's the limit right now, and I'm good at pushing forward ideas like that. And I really like getting donations and money. So I will do what I can to get that going. You can ask Mohammed.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So Shauna, just a quick thought of what Carmen said. I mean, I didn't think of this until Carmen said it, but you know, like Ace Hardware, they're very involved in the community, very successful business. It appears to me anyway, because when I go there, the parking lot's full. You know, they might be willing to donate, you know, like clippers and hands, you know, limbing saws and things like that. They can probably get them at a real discount. They may, you know, they may be willing to do something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe something that we can do is after we kind of get the structure of everything, maybe we can create like a little subgroup of, you know, the little ideas that we have for that as well, or we can bring it up and have more time to talk. Because before I do anything, I promise I'll come to you all and we'll talk about, you know, what that all looks like. So keep coming with your ideas and hopefully we'll have this ready to launch and everything. I'm hoping by like July at the latest, if not earlier than that. We just have to go through some insurance stuff to make sure. And I would love to hear that. So maybe on one of the meetings towards there, we could either hold a special meeting or something else to really go into the weeds, no pun intended, to figure this all out and figure out what exactly we want to see from this and what sort of things we want on our website for people to see and what things we're going to ask from the community. Because I bet you're right, Jerry, the community will be very supportive, especially like Dahlgren's and Ace Hardware and Walmart. I can see them donating a lot of those supplies.
Awesome. This is really cool. It's exciting to see this happening. So thank you, Shauna.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, we have Anonymous. Oh, wait, just kidding. Before we get into that, I almost forgot. Sherry mentioned that she reached out to Kathy and the report has been rescheduled to report on June 16th at the work session. So you're all set for that, Paul. And now that I haven't forgotten that, anonymous donation for parks, which is Lynn, I believe.
Yeah, this is going to be really quick, but it's really good news. We had an anonymous donor come forward and he sent me basically 2 paragraphs, or he or she. It's a $1,000 donation to the city to be dedicated to a project developed by Parks and Trails in cooperation with the Public Works Department and approved by the City Council if necessary. And number 2 is the project is for the purpose of removing invasive plant species and planting of native plant species in a city park or parks. So, good news. And that starts July 1st, the fiscal year.
How much was it, Lynn?
That's awesome.
$1,000.
Okay.
So
you can't have all of it.
So we can divide it between 2, 3 parks, you know, whatever the needs are for the parks that need it the most.
So how do we want to discuss this or tackle this? Do we want to talk through what we could use it for? Do we want to try to make a decision in this meeting, or what would you propose are our next steps, Lynn?
Well, I'm thinking that now that you know this, you might want to come back the next meeting with some kind of plan for your park. And because we all can use a little help here and there. So, but this will go on, this is for 1 year right now. And it's a good opportunity, I think, for some of the parks that have, where you wanted to plant the native species there, but just didn't have the funding. And also we need to find, I was thinking of the Scappoose, or excuse me, the Scappoose Bay probably for native species, but there's a number of different organizations that provide that as well. And the Soil and Water Conservation District might be able to help us with removing invasive species.
Great. I love the idea of coming back next meeting and everyone kind of proposing what they would like to see us do with the money. And then we can kind of have a really focused discussion on it. Does everybody else agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have questions for Lynn beforehand? No.
So Lynn, who's going to administer the $1,000?
Well, it would be the city, because it's going to be in the city fund dedicated to parks.
So Matt Brown.
For that reason.
Matt Brown will be the one who. Okay, so you don't have it in your private banking account then? Okay.
No, I don't have it, darn. But I might use it all for Dalton though. I think that once we have a plan and we get, maybe we can even do some research and finding out how much it might cost to hire somebody or to have somebody donate time to the city to remove those invasive species or get a certain amount of plants. And depending on where and how much that is, you could bring that to the table as well. And then we could go to the funding source.
And if anyone does have questions about invasive species, I'm definitely available to offer advice and suggestions. And I know for a fact that the Soil and Water District, they have a lot of resources and knowledge available as well. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. I love talking how to do treatment. So it would just be my cup of tea.
Thank you,
Any
Emily.
other questions?
Awesome. That's really exciting. That's great news. Thank you, Lynn.
Welcome.
Sherry, can you make sure that that's added on next month's agenda? I'll also make note of it and try to remember, but yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next up we have possible name change of Columbia Botanical Gardens. Do we have someone owning that?
Carmen, yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay. Oh, we talked about that last time, didn't we?
I own that. I can see there's not a lot of enthusiasm among my fellow compatriots here. I don't know where I really want to start with this, but I live here by the Columbia Botanical Gardens. And for years, I've thought I was a biology teacher, and I was thinking, botanical gardens, it's not a botanical gardens. Because at one time I thought about putting a botanical gardens over on that Millard property road over there. I don't think this is ever going to be a botanical gardens like you see at the University of Wisconsin or the University of Washington or something like that. So I think it's really misnamed as a botanical gardens. One of my neighbors, Janet Abbott, she goes down there virtually every day. And she said, yeah, she says, I don't like, it shouldn't be a botanical garden. She says, 3 or 4 times I've met people from Portland that are out here wandering around these trails and they're wondering where the botanical garden is. It's not a botanical garden. I know that a name change is something that is a big deal. And I don't know how this name originally came about, but as an example, we used to have the Parks Department, which did Eisensmith's Pool. And that was really a misname thing. And so by getting it changed, you know, taxpayers realized that, hey, that's a separate entity. It's not really the city. So it is kind of a big deal. People, when they come to it's a nature park. It's not a botanical gardens. Names change, like 3rd Street, when up there where Howie lives. At one time that used to be Oak Street. 6th Street Park. I don't know if it ever officially got changed or not, but at one time it used to be called Union Park. We have a tendency to think that things will, you know, stay the same forever, but you know, hopefully St. Helens will be around for hundreds of years, and we could make a name that's more applicable to it. Some things that I've thought about. Now that we have Brandon Sundin on the board, our local historian, some things I've thought about is like the Old Quarry the Old Quarry Nature Park. You know, one of these days we're going to get a kiosk down there, probably in the next 4 or 5 years, hopefully sooner. And we could get some of the cobblestones I'm told that Portland has mounds of these cobblestones. And, you know, we could make a kiosk that had, you know, designed with cobblestones that was like mined at St. Helens. We could also have a kiosk that had a history, Brandon's job, you know, that showed, you know, the mining and the barging of the cobblestones to, you know, to Portland. You know, in another 50 years, 100 years, people won't think, well, you know, St. Helens wasn't even a quarry. Well, at one time we were a giant quarry, all the way down from our water treatment plant, all the way along the waterfront, all the way around to Dalton Lake, and then all the way around to Highway 30. I mean, it was a gigantic quarry. And I don't know the history of it, but I was told at one time, you know, we had a lot of Italian immigrants that came to St. Helens and did the rock quarrying. We also have some houses in St. Helens that are made out of volcanic rock. We also have some streets that, you know, they're split in 2 with volcanic rock. And I think as far as the history of St. Helens, I don't think Columbia Botanical Gardens is really an appropriate name. I don't think it really describes the park very well. It's a nature park. Hopefully it's going to be 5 acres larger one of these days, and we'll have more trails through it. And we can get rid of a lot of ivy when that happens. But I don't know. I just, I think, I don't know how other people feel. I mean, I'm not a diehard person on this, but I think a name change that would more accurately describe what it is with the historical information behind it would mean a lot more than what it is right now.
I agree. I like the idea of looking into the historical context for the property and naming it based on that and more consistent. It's not a botanical gardens, and I don't think it ever will be. So I'm in full support of renaming.
Now, was that property donated by somebody or something, or how did the city acquire the botanical park?
There's a plaque at the beginning there at the Columbia, what's it called? Columbia Nature Trail, the trail they call it now. Pat Savedich, who was the athletic director and teacher at the junior high for years, him and his wife lived up above the cliff there. And they donated most of the property. I think there's another name associated with that too. But I know that Pat Savedich and his wife donated that property a long time ago.
I wonder if we need to talk to them or a relative.
Well, they have both passed, but they have a daughter that lives in St. Helens. My wife knows her. I don't know her. Yeah. That's still alive. But I think we could still, the plaque should still say there, about Pat Savedich, donating the property. And I think that's important. And that's a possibility. I'm just throwing this out here that I don't think it's a botanical gardens, and I don't think
it's not.
Really describes it. It's a nature park like Nob Hill is.
And we have a few people raising hands. We've got Brandon had his hand up, John had his, and then Lynn. So maybe we can go in that order. And Emily, we'll get to you last after we get through all the commission members.
So I just wanted to say, I've always been kind of been confused about the name too, and just going down there and thinking I was going to see something different than what I actually saw when I was there. But like Jerry said, there was 2 families that came together to donate that property. One of them was the Savedich family, and then the other is the Brownlow family. And Kathleen Brownlow Ward, their daughter, still lives down in that area today. And so I've reached out to Kathleen, and I've also reached out to the Savedich's daughter, Patty Rismone, to get an idea. I'm not against renaming it, but I would like to have an understanding of why it was named that in the first place. And so Patty really didn't know. She said, I know my parents donated that, and she really didn't know where the name came from. Kathleen said she's open to talking to share what she knows about it because like I said, her mom donated some of that land as well. I think that would be an important thing to talk to them, but also Jim Davis, who was the parks director at the time, he's still a really good resource, and I think he might be able to shed some light on that as well. So I have been reaching out to them to see what they kind of know about it. And there is a lot of history in that site, and I know the County Museum has lots of photographs of it. And so when the time comes, if it is renamed and there's going to be some kind of historical plaque there, I think we could do something really neat with it. And I like the idea, like Jerry said, of the pavers. So many of those pavers from Portland came from St. Helens, and so would be a nice nod to the local history.
Awesome. John, did you have a question?
No, I just would kind of concur with what Brandon said. I think a little historical recognition of what the quarries were would be a good chance to let the people know. And I'd call it something like the lost quarry of the Italians or something. But draw a few people in there. I think some, I don't know, kiosks or something with a picture of the quarry got men old, and some of the buildings maybe that are like the old courthouse in St. Helens, were built with that rock from that basalt rock from there. I think that's good. I think it's something that we shouldn't rush into, though. I think we should take our time about it and get a little more of the history down, and then make a decision if we want to. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And Lynn, you had your hand up too.
Yeah. So Jerry, did you have a couple of ideas for the new names that you'd like to see?
Well, I'm open. Yes. First of all, the Botanical Gardens Park. I would like to see the Botanical Gardens Park to be called Nature Park. So, ever what goes in front of, in our English language, it goes in front of Nature Park, I'd like to see Nature Park, because it is a nature park, and kind of like Carmen said, at least in the foreseeable future, 20, 30, 40 years, it's probably going to remain that. As far as what we actually call it, my thinking was, we could call it the Italian Quarry Natural Park, the Italian, Brandon's probably could come up with some ideas that were appropriate, and we could discuss those. But my idea would be the Old Quarry Natural Park, or the Italian Quarry Nature Park, something that gives some history to it. And, in 40, 50, 60 years, people come down there and they look at it and they see the kiosk, they see the information on the kiosk, they get a history lesson and maybe a greater understanding, of St. Helens. Like just, right above Gray Cliffs Park, where Wayne Wygant and Judy Wygant live. There's I don't know what I want to say, the old area where the barges would dock right there. And you can still see where the barges dock. Where Doug Morton lives, he's got gigantic, they're all covered up now. It looks like it's nothing there. But there's all these charred piles of where workers had, chipped off. And, there's piles of that stuff. So, there is a lot of history there. And I'll just leave it at that. So yes, Nature Park with maybe some historical perspective to that. And that's something Brandon and all of us can think about. And I agree with John. It's something we need to move slowly on.
Great. And Emily, did you have a question?
I did. If we're going to be thinking about going back into history, we might want to try considering not just, it would be nice if we could see some historical reference to the Native American communities that used to reside prolifically within this area. I love history. I don't necessarily feel like I obtain as much information about the Native American history from some of the park kiosks that I've seen versus what I would love to be able to see as someone who doesn't know as much as I would like to know.
That's great feedback. Jerry?
I just have a quick question for Brandon. I don't know if this is true or not, but I was told that where the old courthouse sits was a large rock outcropping. And in the early days, that was called, in the local settlers called it Indian Rock. And I was also told that on the Scappoose Bay down there, that one of the largest Native American settlements was in that area, just a little ways up the mouth of Scappoose Bay. So are both of those true or not true, Brandon?
I haven't heard of the Indian Rock or what that is. I know in the 1850s, right where the courthouse stands, there was a blockhouse built that was supposed to protect the locals from native attacks. And they did end up using it on several occasions. People from across the Columbia would come there to seek shelter and things. But this was very heavily populated by Native Americans. That area, right where Milton Creek meets the bay, that was a big population at one time. Also the Warren area along the bay. And so very, very heavily populated for many, many years.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Emily.
I think Scappoose Bay, the nature trail at Scappoose Bay Marina, was it called the Clack Star or something like that? So that had some meaning back to the Indian group in that area, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of the local, that was the name of the local tribe, was Clack Star.
Okay. Clack Star. Didn't know that.
I know the sign brought it
out.
up.
Those are good ideas.
That's like an industry.
So can we put it on the agenda next time to maybe, Brandon, maybe you could give us a little history lesson on Native Americans and the Italians that did the quarry? Is that true? Or is that too much to ask from you?
No, I can start putting a few things together.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, any other discussion on this item before we move on? All righty. Next up, we have the possible name change of the Parks and Trails Commission.
That was me.
Jerry.
It's a no-go. It's a no-go. Let's just move on. No, Shauna, moving on? I talked to Shauna about this, and she's talked to Mohammed, and you know, I guess we could discuss it, but Shauna can say what she, why don't you say what you're thinking, Shauna? I think it's probably not a good idea at this time, or maybe ever.
Well, I'm not sure that I would agree with that necessarily, but I think there needs to be some more discussions. I'd like to talk to Mohammed a little bit more with it being Parks and Recreation Department now. I don't know what that means for the commission name. So that's it. And just how we can do things too can be very thoughtful, where we're not bringing a bunch of recreation stuff to the meetings. I know the meetings goes a long time already, but we do also report on things here. So maybe it's just that's the piece, is that I do a report like I normally do for recreation or whatnot. But I don't know that it's a bad thing to have recreation in the name, and maybe take, maybe it just is the Parks and Recreation Commission, because Trails falls under Parks anyways, right? And that way, if people have questions or things like that, they could come and talk at the public comment section. I think is the main thing, is to give an outlet that if we need to push something through council, we can, because we don't have a recreation commission, and I don't know that we're gonna try to create something like that. So just a few thoughts about it.
That was my original, the reason I brought that up, because that was my original thinking, is that if people from the community want to talk about parks and trails, they can come to us, and they have an open forum at the beginning of the meeting. But for recreation, they didn't. That's why I brought it up. But I'm going to not push that, or that's, Sean, I'll let you and Mohammed decide what you guys want to do, and everyone else can make up their mind too.
Yeah, I like the idea of just kind of waiting and see what plays out with everything that's shifting at the city with the renaming of things. And then when the time comes, I guess have us discuss it at that point.
My only comment would be is that when they redid our name, they did give us open spaces, I believe, to be involved in. And so just to be parks, we're a little more than parks sometimes. That's why Parks and Trails gives us kind of that in of being in other areas too, if you know what I mean. And I hate to lose the trail part of the name if we ever change it. So let's talk later.
That's good input. Thank you, Howard. And Sherry?
Just to let Shauna know, and I emailed Mo about this earlier today, when the Bikes and Ped had trouble getting people and they were down to 2 members, they decided to disband. We absorbed them, and that's where the trails part came in, because that covers trails and bike paths. So that's kind of, and that was only 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was actually the secretary for that commission.
Right.
Yeah. So Yep, I've been around for a while. Yeah, so definitely some more discussion. I think mostly for the recreation part that I've seen in other places, it just, because a lot of the parks and trails stuff, if we are hosting work parties or other recreation type things, it kind of falls all together anyways. But just like we said, making it a thoughtful where we're not having a bunch of parents come and yell about the team their kid got on or things like that. There's a very structured way that what the recreation part means in it, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else have comments on that? All righty. Let's see. We had, do we have an update from SAD potentially next about McCormick?
Well, because we logged in online somehow.
You're on mute, Thad.
It should be unmuted now. Can you hear me?
You are. Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, the playground is really coming along pretty well. They just finished pouring all their concrete, and the concrete curbs are all in all the way around. And now they have a lot of little work to do, tightening up all the playground stuff. And then they'll be putting down the pads. They figure it'd be a couple weeks yet, and then it will be done. But
awesome.
With their part, and then our part will have to be to clean up all the stuff and backfill it and whatever else needs to be done. But it is really looking good. If you get a chance, just drive by and snoop, or wait till it's all done and be surprised, because I think it just really looks good.
Yeah, it looks amazing. So huge kudos to everybody who's working on that. It's exciting to see it come along.
Yeah,
go ahead.
One of the guys told me that he had to try out this.
Oh, we lost you. I'm guessing he was gonna say they had to try out the swing, because that's what I would do.
He was on a slide.
Oh, maybe the slide.
He tried out the slide, and I asked him if it was the little one or what, because was he too scared to go down the big one.
Those slides are great. There's
but it is really coming together good and nice. All the tiles have arrived. They just have to put them down, and that'll take some time to compact all the rock and do their final stuff. But you know, it's going to be there soon.
Awesome. Do we have a date that's planned for like a grand opening, or is it just going to be, since it's pandemic, soft opening, it's open when it's done sort of a thing?
I believe I will be in a meeting with Shauna and people tomorrow to discuss that exact fact. Is that correct, Shauna?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's correct. I think we're leaning more towards a virtual type of ribbon cutting and just encouraging people to come play. And then once we can get back in to do a more robust thing, then we'll do something. Just the interest in this playground is so great that we're afraid that if we do anything, we're going to have quite a bit of folks show up to it. So we want to see what we can do.
Yeah, there isn't a day that goes by that people don't say, when's it going to be done? When's it going to be done? You know, they're all excited about it. So, you know, it's a good thing.
Very cool. Does anyone else have questions for Thad? No? Great. All right. Thank you for the update, Thad.
All right. You guys have a good evening.
You too. Next, we have old business update on the Born Learning Trail.
Yeah, so the Born Learning Trail is the project that we're looking to do with United Way. We've kind of taken just a little pause on it because we're going to do it over at McCormick Park. And I want to really see what the playground looks like and the footprint it puts in, because the Born Learning Trail has different aspects where it's kind of like a story stroll where there's like station 1, go find something blue, like that sort of thing. It's a lot for the early learners, but I really want to see what it looks like around there. And if we can add any of those stations kind of near the park as well. So I'm thinking that's probably going to be more of a June, July type of project. Claire has all the things, and we will be doing a work party that will ask you all that want to join us for that to kind of to come install it. So it's on like wooden posts, and there's things like we have to create a hopscotch and some other things. So it should be a really good community day, but I want to see what the playground looks like first so I can wrap my head around the idea of where we want the Born Learning Trail, since there's so many cool things going over there.
Awesome. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Does anyone have questions about that? All righty. Last item is discussion items. So anybody who has other items to discuss? Howard, any updates on Nob Hill?
Yep. I got a few to ask about.
Okay.
Just wanted to let y'all know that we've got another native plant walk on May 22nd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can sign up for that on Meetup, even though it may be more of a park tour. A lot of the natives now are starting to go dormant. You know, there's still a few things out there. There's still some camas and some other things that are slowly coming up, you know. Also wanted to just raise the fact that we were happy momentarily that we have the corrections crew come out a week or so ago, although supposedly it may have been a mistake that they should have been somewhere else, but they started doing clearing on our trails, and some of our wildflowers got hacked. Our lupin that we've been battling with trying to keep got leveled, except for just barely coming back, and we planted another one in that area, you know, and we really enjoy them. We hope that we could get the corrections crew to come back later in the summer when it's not so critical with wildflowers along the sides of the trails. And if we would have known a little bit more if they were coming, we could have found areas that would have been real good and appropriate for them to work on cutting, you know. So that all went, okay. You know, and so we always said the best time to start cutting the trails a little wider, usually in mid-June to July, because most of our native plants are done. Let's see. I probably should talk to Shauna. If Shauna, if you're still there, if you could send me your telephone, your cell again. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things that I just think would kind of be repetitive to talk on right now about with some of the stuff that I'm doing, especially along the 5th Street right away, you know, because I am doing a lot of blackberries and some of the reed canary grass in there, and I'm going to have to be doing a couple of other ways to get into a couple of things, but I should probably talk to you later on that. And then one totally off the wall is that in the past, I know with COVID last summer, it was very hard for our commission to do anything, but in the past, if COVID restrictions still free up a little bit later this summer, we used to always do a field trip to one of our parks. And I'd like to suggest that if the COVID restrictions free up later this summer, that maybe we should see if we could get a ride out to Sand Island and see some of the improvements that have been done on Sand Island. You know, which none of us really have been out there, I don't think, since Sand Island has had all the improvements that have been done to it. So I think that's about it for right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Howard. I think that's a great idea. I got tired of waiting, and so I booked a camping trip at Sand Island for this summer. Does anyone have any feedback on Howard's items? All righty.
No, I just want to say I think that's a great idea, Howard, you know, to do that, to go out to Sand Island. I just want to say a few things. It has been determined that the city of St. Helens Police will be patrolling the Dalton Lake area. And at first, we weren't sure if it was going to be the county or the city police, but they will be doing that from now on. And went up there last week, and we noticed that the south entrance going to the Dalton Overlook, we've got a couple more homeless camps, and they're starting to chop up the trees and ferns and things like that to try and make little shelters and between trees. And so that's something I want to talk to Chief Greenway about, you know, as far as the area to patrol the most. That's it.
Thank you, Lynn. Jerry.
Yeah, two things. One, this is for Lisa. In the annual report, you know, we talked about the urban trail, but also I'd like maybe to emphasize that, you know, we were unanimous behind the city, you know, purchasing the Richard Bailey Durrell Kersley property. So, you know, that's kind of emphasized. And Sherry, this next one's for you. Last year, we had the Columbia County beekeepers come and talk to us. And they said they were interested in planting some native plants in the Columbia Botanical Gardens. I'd like to get their phone number so I can talk to them. Maybe I can look that up on, you know, the internet, but I didn't think about that until today.
I don't have their information. I wasn't involved in that.
I can look back. Okay. If you need help, Jerry, let me know, and I can look at some of the past meeting minutes and at least get some names and stuff for you.
Yeah. I want to see if they'll help with the cleanup, which we're going to talk about.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Do you want to give an update on the cleanup? You want to talk about that? Was that next?
You're going to do that, Carmen. Remember?
Okay. Yeah. Do you have something else though? I thought you said you were going to talk about it. Okay. Does anyone else have any other discussion items? Okay, so yeah, we've mentioned it a couple of times in this meeting, but Jerry kind of got things rolling with a cleanup effort at the Botanical Gardens. And so we have a tentative date set for May 22nd, 9 a.m. to noon. So we have the form from Shauna. Jerry and I met this afternoon to get all of that filled out with all the details and what we need and when we need it by and what we're planning to focus on. So Shauna, I will get that to you tomorrow. And then we can make sure that that date works okay. And we can send an email out to the full commission with the details. But yeah, planning to do cleanup, blackberries, widening the trail, potentially cutting some holly and pulling ivy. What am I missing, Jerry?
Yeah, well, we're going to clean up garbage, you know, enhance the trails, because the trails, some of them are like deer trails now. That's what Janet Abbott told me. She says, Jerry, those trails are deer trails. We need to widen them. So we're going to pick up garbage. There's not a lot there. We're going to widen the trails and work on some invasive species.
Now, can I ask you one question on all that, Jerry?
Sure.
Would it be helpful? I did go over to Dalton Lake and donated about an hour with our fancy new brush cutter weed eater. Would widening those trails there be something that would aid in and do faster? Think on that one.
I think there's some places, especially on the back trail. The back trail here. Yeah. One that's run along here. I think that if we had, like, especially in there, you know, I know there's a lot of native species on both sides of that, but it's mostly grass. But that very back trail, that would probably be very, very handy in that area.
Okay. I'll see. I mean, even though I've got a native plant walk at 1 o'clock, I'll see if there's possibility to try to get over there for an hour or so in the morning.
Yeah, that would be great, Howie.
Okay.
We'll sign you that back trail then, you and whoever. That'll be yours.
Okay. I'm still breaking the new machine in. I barely run 3 tank pulls through it now.
That is so cool.
You can do that easily. You could do that back trail probably in less than 30 minutes, probably with a machine like that.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a real blackberry gobbler.
That will be my next donation project.
Okay.
All right, does anyone else have items for discussion before we end the meeting?
I just really quick, sorry, Carmen, just wanted to say that it's been great working with you all so far. And the best way to get a hold of me is, well, any way you want, but there's cell phone, desk phone, email. I am also still the main contact for rec. So I am running rec programs and things like that. So if I don't get a hold of you back right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I'm probably doing childcare or something along those lines. So if if it's an absolute emergency, definitely call 911. But if it's anything other than that, leave a message and I will call you back. And I'm just learning a lot of things that I never knew that parks did or never knew that I would have to worry about. So it's been interesting so far. And yeah, if you have any ideas or thoughts and stuff, email is usually the best way if you want to like hash things out, like about thoughts and ideas and stuff. It's easier for me to keep track of our conversation because there is a lot of different things going on. We're getting ready to start some summer camps. The school district is getting a very large sum of money that they're enlisting our help to help them run summer programs. So we are hiring for both recreation summer help, so 16 plus if you know anybody, and then also we're getting ready to ramp up our summer help for parks. So if you know anybody 18 plus, please send them our way because we have really struggled getting good applicants in the past for parks, and so we're really trying to amp that up this year so we can get them looking nice. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. All right, last call. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.